South Carolina officially now has doubled its daily record for one-day rainfall, causing some streets to be inundated with flooding over the weekend. The National Weather Service reported that 3.63 inches of rain fell in downtown Charleston on Saturday, and that shattered the one-day record of 1 of an inch set back in 1948. Charleston, a beautiful place to be, but it just was not beautiful this weekend.
Well, here's the rain. So you got all that rain mixed with, I'll show you wind in a second, mixed with all that wind.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and this is through the day, so it's all blowing into the harbor, and we still have that. That's like 2. So that's going to be interesting. Yeah, we're sitting aboard Resilience. I just got this message, which is pretty normal these days. It's 8:05 in the morning, and it says, emergency alert, flood warning. And it's raining. And I think the combination is basically it's also about to be high tide here soon. So yeah, Charleston these days, a little bit of rain, and it's raining a fair amount right now. We have a storm coming through. A little bit of rain, or even a sunny day and high tide, it's flooding. It never used to be like this. Like we'd have floods during hurricanes, you know, and that makes sense. Same thing as sort of today where the wind's blowing onshore and you have a lot of rain and you have a high tide, but that's like when we'd have floods. And you know, part of that also you got to realize is not just because of new environmental changes that we're seeing the effects of here with that create flooding, but also a lot of the city is built over marsh. The other thing that we have done in the city over the hundreds of years is fill in creeks and kind of shut down creeks and shut down wetland. And now there's this huge conversation of, oh, we need that. We need those wetlands. So I can think of a better weather condition than rain and possible flooding and a flood alert coming on my phone for an interview that we have today with a friend, Andrew Wonderly, who is an attorney, but also really the executive director of Charleston Waterkeepers. And I'm really curious to see, what he has to say. I think it's relevant to a lot of the stuff that we're learning about here in the Lowcountry. And hopefully we can make it to him. Luckily we're driving a truck, which not the most fuel efficient, but is higher. See from here, but that dock where this boat is, the waves are already at the base of the dock. The water is actually at the base of the dock. And this dock, at our highest, like during storms and crazy high tides, I used to boat build down here and hang out down here. That dock I remember being underwater some on crazy tides, but we're still so far from high tide right now.
My name is Andrew Wonderly, and I'm Charleston's waterkeeper, or the executive director of Charleston Waterkeeper. And we work to protect and restore Charleston's waterways so folks can enjoy them for fishing, swimming, paddling, whatever it is you love to do without pollution. I mean, we're absolutely blessed with such a diversity of waterways, creeks, rivers, lakes, ocean, marsh, and intertidal areas. I mean, it is absolutely incredible. I mean, I'm biased, of course, but I think our waterways are the most beautiful in the world. We've got all this diversity of habitat, diversity of ecosystem, some of the most abundant salt marsh in the world, and it's all right here in South Carolina. It's some of the most productive habitat on the globe, right? And the ways in which we use it and enjoy it, derive culture from it, are just as diverse as the people that love them. Here in the Lowcountry and in the Charleston area, really the whole South Carolina coast, we were on the margin, right? This margin between land and water. And, I like to tell folks, we've got 1 foot in the water, 1 foot on land at all times. And especially in a day like today where, we're having an extremely high tide plus heavy rainfall. I think, it seems like land and water, there's no distinction, right? And so, I think as a community, we have to be super conscious that what we do on land impacts what happens in the water, right? We do a lot of water quality testing work under what we call our Water Watch program. And so there's a number of different testing efforts under that. And one of them is bacteria testing. And so every Wednesday, May through October, we go out and test bacteria levels at recreational hotspots. And what we found over the last 12 years of testing is that bacteria will fluctuate with rainfall, right? And so how is that, that's the pathway that bacteria is, bacteria and pathogens are getting into nearby creeks and rivers and contaminating the areas where we love to swim and paddle and fish and sail and all that. And so the stormwater, floodwater, rainwater, whatever we call it, is that connection a lot of times between land and water. It sweeps, effluent from septic tanks or sewer overflows, dog waste, wildlife waste, whatever it is, and it washes all that right into a creek or river. There's no treatment on that. I mean, we've really grown the water quality testing work over the years, and the reason we've invested so much in that is because we have this core belief at Waterkeepers that data drives change for clean water, right? What we mean by that is, we are at our core advocates, right? Advocates for clean water. And so we want to hold polluters accountable. We want to hold elected leaders accountable for doing right by our local creeks and rivers. And the way that we do that is by leveraging the data that we and others collect to turn that into advocacy. And so when we can stand up in court, when we can stand up at a city council meeting, or when we can take that data and that science to the General Assembly in Columbia and say, we know this is a problem because we have data and evidence that says it's a problem, right? Then we can start to work from a place of facts, from science, and we can start to pull the levers that work and make the change to better protect local waterways. The difficult conflict is that everybody wants to be along the South Carolina coast. It's a wonderful place to be. Everybody sees that. And so as more and more people come, as more and more businesses locate here, as the community grows, as we change, rural areas to suburban and urban areas, as we rapidly develop the land and we change that relationship between land and water and how it works, and we start to demand modern comforts, all of that has an impact on the environment, right? As humans, we cannot go through daily life without impacting the environment. And so really the question is like, how do you do that, in the most sustainable and sensitive ways? The issue right now is South Carolina has some of the weakest septic tank regulations in the Southeast, which makes our popularity, along with those weak protections, makes South Carolina a target for this type of development. And we're not talking about ma and pa here developing a property and putting a few houses on it. We're talking about the big national hedge fund backed home builders, right? Their only connection in our community is, build, develop, and then leave. And so wherever the next opportunity is, they'll move on as quickly as possible. And that leaves our communities and our environment stuck with these developments long term, right? And so what you have is development pressure on the land and environmental pressure from climate change. And those two things are colliding in a really acute way right now in South Carolina's coastal zone. And so, these issues are really tough and they're long term, right? And I think, we a lot of times end up on the front lines of them, right? And so I think it takes all of us as a community to say, hey, we welcome growth. Growth is okay, right? But we want to do it in a way that's sustainable, that's resilient, that we can all continue to thrive and enjoy this place without destroying it, right? And so that you need policy solutions to that. You need politicians and political will to support those solutions, right? And you need groups and communities that are willing to stand up when things aren't going the right way. Waterkeepers are working all over the world, right? You name a waterway and there's a good chance there's a waterkeeper nearby. And it's that model. It's like local people that know their waterways, know the issues, know their communities are the best advocates for clean water. And so it works internationally, right? Across cultures, and across ethnicities. I think it speaks to the notion of water as a common denominator, right? I mean, water connects us all through the world. It's true here in Charleston, but it's true all over the world. It touches all parts of our lives. I've been at this for a little while, and as I've gotten older, I think what's most exciting to me right now, right, and where I see a lot of positive is how these issues are so ingrained in this next generation that's coming along, right? There was no environmental science. You couldn't study that in college when I came along, right? You could study biology and chemistry, But now you have these interdisciplinary studies that are bringing things together, like, you know, science and policy and justice issues and economic issues, like, and it's tackling these issues in a new way and inspiring a next generation of folks. And that's what's really exciting to me, you know, both in my work, but also in my personal life, you know, having a college-age daughter and a high school-age son, you know, that the world is going to be a much different place for them. And I'll tell you what, you know, what I hear from them and what I hear from other young people we work with is that, you know, they're kind of fed up, right? And they're not real patient about wanting to see things change. You need that sense of urgency, and that's what's really exciting. I mean, my hope is, right, that they can sustain that urgency. You've got to guard your hope, and you've got to guard your energy, you know, for the long haul.
Talking to Andrew Wonderly was actually really wonderful. I feel like he made everything click for me. You know, I feel like he gave the context of the Low Country that I was missing.
Meeting with Andrew was just a really, I think, absolutely necessary interview. And the big thing that Andrew kept on sort of nailing was get more involved. One, people get overwhelmed with changes and environmental issues, or they feel sort of tense about them or whatever it might be. But two, it's sort of like, am I qualified to talk about it? There's so much information out there, or there are other people that know more about it, or whatever it might be. But Andrew kept on driving home that you need to get involved. And that's what organizations like his are for. If you want to access more content, consider joining our community on Patreon. You can find details in the video description. Thank you so much for watching.